What happens when a 79-year-old grandfather sits in Judge Judy's courtroom and refuses to defend himself against his own granddaughter's accusations? What happens when everyone watching assumes he is guilty because he will not speak, will not explain, will not offer a single word in his own defense? This is the story of William Carter, a retired firefighter who spent 42 years running into burning buildings to save strangers. A man who raised 2 daughters alone after his wife died of cancer. A man who has never once in his entire life failed to pay a debt or broken a promise. And yet here he sits, accused by his own flesh and blood of stealing $15,000 from her, and he will not say a single word to defend himself. His granddaughter Jennifer sits at the plaintiff's table with fury in her eyes, convinced that her grandfather is a thief who took advantage of her trust. The courtroom audience has already made up their minds. The evidence seems clear. The money is gone. The grandfather admits he took it. Case closed. But what nobody in that courtroom knows, what Jennifer herself does not know, is why William Carter took that money. And when the truth finally comes out, when a door opens in the back of the courtroom and someone walks through it, Jennifer Carter will fall to her knees and beg forgiveness from the man she just called a criminal on national television. Because William Carter did not steal that money. He used it to save someone's life. Someone Jennifer loves more than anyone in the world. Someone whose secret William has been protecting for 3 years. Even if it meant letting his own granddaughter believe he was a monster. William Carter became a firefighter in 1965 when he was 22 years old. He served the city of Philadelphia for 42 years, responding to over 6,000 emergency calls, pulling 17 people from burning buildings with his own hands, and earning 3 medals of valor for acts of heroism that his colleagues still talk about decades later. He never sought recognition. He never bragged about his service. He simply did his job with quiet dedication and went home each night to the family he loved more than life itself. His wife, Patricia, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1987. She fought for 4 years before the disease finally won. William raised their 2 daughters alone after that, working double shifts to pay the bills while somehow still making it to every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. He taught his daughters that family was everything. He taught them that sacrifice was love made visible. He taught them that a person's character was measured not by what they said, but by what they did when no one was watching. His older daughter, Catherine, grew up to become a successful corporate lawyer. She married well, had 2 children of her own, and gradually drifted away from her working-class roots. She visited her father maybe twice a year, sent expensive gifts for his birthday, and called occasionally with updates about her busy life. His younger daughter Rachel was different. Rachel struggled. She married young, divorced twice, battled depression, and never quite found her footing in the world. When Rachel died unexpectedly from a heart condition 5 years ago, William was devastated. But his grief was complicated by a responsibility that Rachel had left behind. Her 2 children, Jennifer and Matthew, needed someone. Catherine was too busy with her career to take them in. So William Carter, at 74 years old, opened his small home and his smaller retirement income to his grandchildren. He became their guardian, their provider, their anchor in a world that had already taken so much from them. Jennifer was 19 when she moved in with her grandfather, old enough to remember her mother, old enough to carry the grief of losing her. Matthew was 16, still a child in so many ways, struggling with demons that no one in the family fully understood. William did everything he could for both of them. He paid for Jennifer's community college classes. He bought Matthew's school supplies and clothes. He stretched his firefighter's pension further than it was ever meant to go, skipping meals himself so his grandchildren would never go hungry. For 3 years, William Carter held that family together with nothing but love and determination. And then something happened that would test everything he believed about sacrifice and secrets, and the true meaning of protection. Jennifer sits at the plaintiff's table now, 24 years old, wearing a blazer she bought for job interviews, her face set in an expression of righteous anger. She is suing her grandfather for $15,000, money she saved from working 2 jobs throughout college. Money she entrusted to him for safekeeping. Money that has vanished without explanation. She loved her grandfather once. She trusted him completely. And when she discovered that her savings account had been emptied, when she confronted him and he offered no explanation, when he simply bowed his head and said he was sorry, that love turned to something bitter and broken. Your Honor, Jennifer says, her voice steady despite the emotion underneath. I worked for 4 years to save that money. Waitressing jobs, retail jobs, night shifts while going to school full-time. I gave that money to my grandfather to hold because I trusted him more than I trusted myself. And he took it. He admits he took it, but he refuses to tell me why or what he did with it. Judge Judy examines the elderly man at the defendant's table. William Carter sits with his shoulders bowed, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes fixed on the table in front of him. He looks like a man who has already accepted his fate. He looks like a man who has stopped fighting doubt, Mr. Carter, Judge Judy says, her voice carrying its usual authority. Your granddaughter claims you took $15,000 from an account she entrusted to your care. She says you admit taking the money. Is that correct? William's voice is barely audible. Yes, Your Honor. I took the money, the courtroom murmurs. This should be an open and shut case. The defendant admits guilt. What more is there to discuss? But Judge Judy has been doing this for 28 years. She has learned to recognize when something does not add up. And everything about William Carter's demeanor suggests a man carrying a burden far heavier than simple theft. Mr. Carter, she says slowly. You spent 42 years as a firefighter. You have 3 medals of valor. You raised 2 daughters alone and took in your grandchildren when their mother died. Your record is spotless. Your reputation is impeccable. And you expect me to believe that you simply stole $15,000 from your own granddaughter without any reason? William raises his head slightly but does not meet her eyes. I took the money, Your Honor. That is all that matters. No, Mr. Carter, that is not all that matters. Where did the money go? Silence. William's jaw tightens, but he says nothing. Jennifer's frustration boils over. This is what he does, Your Honor. He refuses to explain. He refuses to defend himself. He just sits there looking guilty and will not tell anyone the truth. I have asked him 100 times, what did you do with my money? And he will not answer. He will not even try. Judge Judy leans forward, her eyes fixed on William with an intensity that has made thousands of defendants squirm. Mr. Carter, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. What did you do with your granddaughter's $15,000? William closes his eyes. When he speaks, his voice is heavy with a grief that seems far deeper than this courtroom dispute. I cannot tell you, Your Honor. I am sorry. The courtroom reacts with a mixture of confusion and judgment. An admission of guilt combined with a refusal to explain is the worst possible strategy for a defendant. It makes him look guilty and unrepentant. It suggests he knows what he did was wrong and simply does not care enough to justify it. Judge Judy's expression hardens. Mr. Carter, let me be clear about something. In my courtroom, silence is not a defense. If you took this money, your granddaughter deserves to know why. If there is an explanation that justifies what you did, now is the time to share it. Because right now, you look like a man who stole from his own family and feels no obligation to explain himself. William's hands tremble slightly. He opens his mouth as if to speak, then closes it again. The internal struggle is visible on his face. A war between 2 impossible choices. Jennifer watches. Her grandfather with a mixture of anger and something that might be disappointment. She wanted him to fight. She wanted him to have an explanation. Some part of her, perhaps the part that still remembers the man who held her when her mother died, hoped there was a reason that would make this make sense. Grandpa, she says, her voice cracking slightly. Just tell me. Whatever it is, just tell me. I deserve to know what happened to 4 years of my life. 4 years of working doubles and skipping parties and saying no to everything because I was saving for my future. That money was supposed to be my down payment on an apartment. It was supposed to be my fresh start. And you took it. Why? William finally looks at his granddaughter, and his eyes are filled with a pain so profound that several people in the courtroom look away. Unable to witness such naked anguish. Jenny, he says softly, using the childhood nickname he gave her when she was small. I love you more than you will ever know. Everything I have done, everything I have ever done, has been for you and your brother. Please believe that, even if you cannot believe anything else I say asterisk, then tell me the truth, Jennifer pleads. If you love me, tell me what you did with my money. William's voice drops to barely a whisper. I cannot. I made a promise. A promise to who? Who is more important than your own granddaughter? Before William can respond, the courtroom doors open with a sound that seems to echo through the entire space. Every head turns to see who has entered. A young man in his early 20s walks slowly down the center aisle. He is thin, almost frail, with shadows under his eyes that speak of sleepless nights and hard battles. He moves with the careful deliberation of someone who has recently been very sick or very broken. Jennifer's face transforms from anger to shock to overwhelming emotion in the span of 3 seconds. Matthew. Her voice is barely a whisper. What are you doing here? You said you were too sick to come. You said you had a doctor's appointment. Matthew Carter stops in the middle of the courtroom, his eyes moving from his sister to his grandfather and back again. When he speaks, his voice shakes with emotion. I lied, Jenny, just like Grandpa has been lying to protect me. But I cannot let him take the blame anymore. I cannot let you hate him for something he did to save my life. Judge Judy watches this development with intense interest. Mr. Carter, she says to Matthew, who are you, and what do you know about this case? Matthew takes a deep breath. I am Matthew Carter, Your Honor. I am Jennifer's younger brother, and the $15,000 she is suing Grandpa for. He spent every penny of it on my treatment. The courtroom goes absolutely still. Jennifer stares at her brother, her mouth open, unable to process what she is hearing. What treatment? What are you talking about? Matthew's eyes fill with tears. 3 years ago, right before you started your junior year of college, I tried to kill myself. I swallowed a bottle of pills and Grandpa found me in the bathroom. He saved my life. He called 911 and did CPR until the paramedics arrived. And then he spent the next year and a half paying for my treatment because insurance would not cover most of it. Jennifer's face has gone completely white. What? No, that is not possible. You were fine. You were always fine. You said you were taking classes at the community college. You said everything was good. Matthew shakes his head slowly. I was in residential treatment for 8 months, Jenny. After that, I was in intensive outpatient therapy for another 6 months. Medication management, group counseling, individual therapy 3 times a week. All of it costs money that Grandpa did not have. So he used your savings to keep me alive. William speaks for the first time since his grandson entered. Matthew, you promised me you would never tell her. We agreed she did not need to carry this burden. Matthew walks to his grandfather and kneels beside him. Grandpa, I cannot let you lose in court because of me. I cannot let Jenny hate you for saving my life. That was never part of our agreement. Jennifer has not moved. She stands frozen at the plaintiff's table, her entire worldview collapsing around her. Her brother, her baby brother, the one person in the world she thought she knew completely, tried to end his life. And she had no idea. She was working double shifts and going to school and dreaming about her future while her brother was fighting to survive. Why did no one tell me? Her voice is raw, broken. Why did everyone keep this from me? William finally looks directly at his granddaughter. Because you had already lost so much, Jenny. Your father left when you were 7. Your mother died when you were 19. You were working so hard to build a life for yourself. You had so much hope, so much determination. I could not put this on you too. I could not make you feel responsible for saving your brother when you were barely surviving yourself. Matthew stands and faces his sister. He did it for both of us, Jenny. He knew that if you found out, you would drop out of school to take care of me. You would give up your dreams to fix me. And he could not let that happen. So he made me promise to keep it secret. He said he would figure out the money somehow. He said your future was more important than anything else. Jennifer's legs give out beneath her. She collapses into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. 3 years of misdirected anger dissolving into overwhelming grief and guilt. I called him a thief. Her voice is barely audible between sobs. I called him a criminal. I said he betrayed me. I said I would never forgive him. And all this time, he was saving my brother's life. Judge Judy sits in silence for a long moment, processing everything she has just witnessed. When she finally speaks, her voice carries a weight of emotion that regular viewers have rarely heard. Mr. William Carter. Look at me. William raises his head, his own eyes glistening with tears. In 28 years of doing this job, I have seen people lie, cheat, and steal from their own families without a shred of remorse. I have seen greed destroy relationships that should have been unbreakable. But I have never, not once in my entire career, seen a man sit in this courtroom and let himself be called a thief to protect his grandchildren. She removes her glasses, something she rarely does during a case. You were willing to lose this case. You were willing to let your granddaughter think you were a criminal. You were willing to sacrifice your reputation, your dignity, everything, just so she would not have to carry the weight of her brother's pain. That is not theft, Mr. Carter. That is love in its purest form. Asterisk, the silence in the courtroom is sacred. Every person present understands that they are witnessing something far beyond a legal dispute. They are witnessing a family being reconstructed from the wreckage of secrets and sacrifice. Jennifer finally finds the strength to stand. She walks around the plaintiff's table on unsteady legs, moving toward her grandfather as if pulled by an invisible force. When she reaches him, she does not say anything. She simply falls into his arms, clinging to him like she did when she was a child, when her mother was alive, when the world made sense. I am so sorry, Grandpa. I am so sorry. I did not know. I did not understand. William holds his granddaughter tightly, his weathered hands gentle on her back. There is nothing to forgive, Jenny. You did not know because I made sure you would not know. You were supposed to be angry at me. That was the plan. You were never supposed to find out the truth. Matthew approaches them, and for a moment, the three of them stand together in a fragile embrace that represents years of hidden pain and unspoken love. The courtroom audience watches in complete silence, many of them wiping tears from their own eyes. Judge Judy allows this moment to unfold without interruption. She understands that some things are more important than courtroom protocol, more important than television schedules, more important than the routine mechanics of justice. When she finally speaks, her voice is gentler than most people have ever heard it. Miss Carter, she says to Jennifer, I need to address the legal matter at hand. You filed a lawsuit against your grandfather for $15,000. Given what you have just learned, do you wish to proceed with this case? Jennifer pulls back from her grandfather's embrace and faces Judge Judy. Her face is streaked with tears. Her composure completely shattered, but her voice is clear. Your Honor, I withdraw my lawsuit completely. My grandfather does not owe me anything. He never did. Judge Judy nods. That is the response I expected from you, and it speaks well of your character. However, I want to address something that goes beyond this specific case. She stands from her bench, another unprecedented move that causes murmurs throughout the courtroom. She walks down to the floor, positioning herself near the Carter family. Mr. Carter, she says, you spent $15,000 of your granddaughter's savings on your grandson's mental health treatment. You did this because insurance would not cover the care he needed. Is that correct? William nods slowly. Yes, Your Honor. Our insurance considered most of his treatment experimental or unnecessary. They approved maybe 20% of the claims. The rest came out of pocket. And your retirement income? Your pension from 42 years of service as a firefighter? William looks down. My pension is $2,800 per month, Your Honor. After I pay the mortgage on my house and the utilities and the groceries for 3 people, there is not much left. The credit cards are maxed out. I have been working part-time as a security guard at a warehouse to try to make ends meet. Jennifer's head snaps up. You have been working? Grandpa, You are 79 years old. You should not be working night shifts at a warehouse. William's voice is matter-of-fact, almost dismissive of his own sacrifice. The bills do not pay themselves, Jenny. Someone has to take care of this family. Judge Judy's expression is complex, mixing admiration with something that might be frustration at a system that forces elderly men to work night shifts to pay for their grandchildren's medical care. Mr. Carter, she says. How much debt did you accumulate trying to pay for Matthew's treatment? Asterisk. William hesitates, clearly uncomfortable discussing his financial situation. The credit cards are about $23,000, Your Honor, plus the medical bills that went to collections. Maybe another $12,000 from those. So you are $35,000 in debt. Working night shifts at 79 years old. All because the healthcare system failed your grandson? I do not think of it as failure, Your Honor. The system is what it is. I just did what needed to be done. Judge Judy turns to Matthew. Mr. Carter, how are you doing now? Are you still receiving treatment? Asterisk. Matthew nods, his posture straightening slightly with the pride of someone who has fought hard for his recovery. I am doing much better, Your Honor. I finished intensive treatment about a year ago. Now I see a therapist once a week and a psychiatrist once a month for medication management. I have been stable for 14 months. I have a part-time job at a bookstore. I am taking online classes to finish my degree. I am not cured, but I am managing. Judge Judy places a hand on Matthew's shoulder. I am glad to hear that. Mental illness is not something to be ashamed of. It is a medical condition like any other, and the fact that you sought help and stuck with treatment takes tremendous courage. You should be proud of yourself. She turns to address the courtroom more broadly. I want everyone watching to understand something. Matthew Carter is alive today because his grandfather made impossible choices. He is alive because an elderly man on a fixed income found a way to pay for treatment that insurance deemed unnecessary. He is alive because love was stronger than bureaucracy. She walks back toward her bench, but does not sit down. In this country, we talk about family values and supporting our veterans and respecting our elders. But when a 79-year-old man with 42 years of public service has to work night shifts to pay for his grandson's mental health care, something is fundamentally broken. When families have to choose between financial ruin and saving their children's lives, something is fundamentally wrong. Judge Judy picks up her phone and makes a call, just as she did in a similar case before. Her voice is crisp and commanding. I need you to contact the Firefighters Charitable Foundation and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Get them on the phone within the hour. I also need our production team to prepare documentation of William Carter's service record and financial situation. We are going to fix this. She ends the call and looks at William with an expression that combines respect and determination. Mr. Carter, this show is going to pay off your credit card debt. All $23,000 of it. We are also going to negotiate with the collection agencies to settle your outstanding medical bills. You're going to start next month with a clean financial slate. William's face crumbles. He tries to speak, but cannot find words. 79 years of stoic strength finally gives way to open emotion. Jennifer grabs her grandfather's hand. We will help too, Grandpa. I will help. I have a good job now. I can contribute. Matthew nods firmly. So will I. As soon as I graduate, I am getting a full-time job, and I am paying back every penny you spent on me. William shakes his head, finally finding his voice. No, that money was not a loan. It was a gift. You do not owe me anything. Either of you. The only thing I ever wanted was for you both to be happy and healthy. That is all the payment I need. Judge Judy interjects. Mr. Carter, your grandchildren want to help you. Let them. That is what family does. You spent your entire life carrying other people's burdens. It is time to let someone carry yours for a while. She returns to her bench and picks up her gavel. This case is dismissed. But more importantly, this family is healed. Jennifer, you came here today to get justice for what you thought was a betrayal. Instead, you discovered the depths of your grandfather's love. Matthew, you came here to save your grandfather from a burden you felt responsible for. Instead, You showed tremendous courage by revealing your story on national television. She looks at William with genuine warmth. And Mr. Carter, you came here prepared to be convicted of theft to protect your grandchildren. Instead, you showed everyone watching what real heroism looks like. It does not always happen in burning buildings. Sometimes it happens in the quiet choices we make to sacrifice ourselves for the people we love. Asterisk, the immediate aftermath of Judge Judy's verdict is overwhelming for the Carter family. They stand together in the center of the courtroom, holding each other as waves of emotion crash over them. 40 years of firefighting never broke William Carter. Burying his wife did not break him. Raising 2 daughters alone did not break him. Losing his younger daughter and taking in her children did not break him. But the sight of his grandchildren embracing him, forgiving him, thanking him for sacrifices they never knew he made, finally cracks the armor he has worn for 8 decades. Jennifer cannot stop apologizing. The words pour out of her in a flood of guilt and grief. All those months of anger, all those accusations, all those cold shoulders and refused phone calls. She had convinced herself that her grandfather was a selfish old man who had betrayed her trust. She had rehearsed her courtroom speech about responsibility and promises. She had imagined his shame when the judge ruled against him, and all along, he was working night shifts at a warehouse to pay for her brother's treatment. All along, he was carrying a secret that would have destroyed her if she had known. All along, he was choosing to be hated rather than let her suffer. Grandpa, how could you do this? How could you let me think the worst of you for 3 years? William's voice is tired but at peace. Because the alternative was worse, Jenny. If you had known about Matthew's attempt, you would have blamed yourself. You would have wondered what signs you missed, what you could have done differently. You would have put your life on hold to take care of him. And Matthew would have felt guilty for being a burden on you. This way, the only person who suffered was me. And that was acceptable. Matthew steps back slightly, his face twisted with emotion. But you should not have had to suffer alone, Grandpa. You carried all of this by yourself. The medical bills, the debt, the secret, everything. No one should have to do that alone. William places a hand on Matthew's shoulder. I was not alone. I had you. Every day that you fought to get better, every therapy session you attended, every small victory in your recovery, that gave me strength. Watching you rebuild your life was worth every sacrifice. Judge Judy, who has been observing this family reunion with uncharacteristic patience, finally speaks again. Mr. Carter, I meant what I said about paying off your debts. But I want to do something more. I want to use your story to help other families who are going through similar situations. She addresses the cameras directly. Mental health care in this country is in crisis. Families are going bankrupt trying to get treatment for their loved ones. Young people are dying because their parents cannot afford the care they need. Insurance companies deny claims for treatment that doctors say is medically necessary. And elderly grandparents on fixed incomes are working night shifts to fill the gaps. Her voice sharpens with passion. This is unacceptable. In the wealthiest nation on earth, no family should have to choose between financial survival and saving their child's life. No grandfather should have to drain his grandchildren's college funds to pay for mental health treatment. No young man should feel like a burden because his illness required expensive care. She turns back to the Carter family. Matthew, I want to ask you something. Would you be willing to share your story more broadly? Not just what happened in this courtroom, but your journey through mental illness and recovery. Matthew hesitates, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of public exposure. He has spent 3 years hiding his struggle, protecting his sister from the truth, feeling shame about his lowest moment. William speaks before Matthew can respond. Your Honor, with respect, my grandson has been through enough. He should not have to become a public symbol if he does not want it. Judge Judy nods. I understand, and I would never pressure him. But Matthew, I want you to know that there are millions of young people out there who are struggling the way you struggled. Many of them feel alone. Many of them think no one understands. If you shared your story, you might save someone's life the way your grandfather saved yours. Matthew is quiet for a long moment. He looks at his grandfather, then at his sister. Then at the courtroom full of strangers who have just witnessed the most painful chapter of his life. I spent 3 years being ashamed. He finally says, 3 years feeling like I was broken, like I had failed, like I was a burden on everyone who loved me. But watching my grandfather today, watching him refuse to defend himself because he was protecting me, I realized something. The shame was never mine to carry. I had an illness. I got treatment. I survived. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be proud of. He takes a deep breath. So yes, Your Honor, I will share my story. If it helps one person ask for help instead of suffering in silence, it will be worth it. Judge Judy smiles, a rare expression that transforms her usually stern face. That is very brave, Matthew. And I promise you, it will help more than one person. Asterisk, she addresses the production team. I want Matthew Carter's story featured in our special on mental health and family sacrifice. I want resources for families dealing with similar situations included with every broadcast. And I want William Carter recognized for what he truly is. Not a thief, but a hero who saved his grandson's life at the cost of his own financial security. Jennifer speaks up, her voice still shaky but growing stronger. Your Honor, I want to help too. I am a marketing professional. I can help spread Matthew's story and Grandpa's story. I can create content that reaches young people who might be struggling. I can use my skills for something meaningful. Judge Judy nods approvingly. The Carter family is turning a tragedy into a mission. That is exactly what I hoped would happen. Asterisk, she picks up her gavel and addresses the courtroom one final time. This case came to my courtroom as a dispute about $15,000. It is leaving as something much larger. It is a reminder that the people we think we know are often carrying burdens we cannot see. It is a lesson about sacrifice and secrets and the lengths we will go to protect the people we love. And it is a call to action for a country that needs to do better for families facing mental health crises. She looks at William with deep respect. Mr. Carter, you spent 42 years running into burning buildings. You saved 17 lives by your own count. But the most heroic thing you ever did was not caught on camera. It was not celebrated with medals. It happened in the quiet moments when you chose to sacrifice yourself for your grandchildren. That is the kind of heroism that matters most. The gavel comes down. Case dismissed with my profound gratitude for the lesson you have taught everyone watching today. Asterisk. The story of William Carter does not end when the cameras stop rolling. In the weeks following the broadcast, something remarkable happens. The episode becomes the most watched Judge Judy segment in the show's history. Clips of William's silent dignity, Matthew's courageous confession, and Jennifer's cheerful reconciliation spread across every social media platform. Within a month, the video has been viewed over 60 million times, but the views are not what matters. What matters are the messages that pour in from around the world. A mother in Ohio writes that watching Matthew's confession gave her the courage to finally talk to her son about his depression. A teenager in Texas says he called a suicide hotline after seeing the episode because if Matthew could survive, maybe he could too. A grandfather in Florida admits that he has been hiding his own grandson's addiction. And watching William's story made him realize that secrets can be as destructive as the problems they hide. The Firefighters Charitable Foundation reaches out to William within days of the broadcast. They establish a fund in his name for first responders facing family mental health crises. The initial donation from the show pays off William's debts as promised, but the fund grows far beyond that. Within 6 months, the William Carter Fund has distributed over $400,000 to families of firefighters, police officers, and paramedics who are struggling to pay for their children's mental health care. Matthew keeps his promise to share his story. He starts a blog called Still Standing that documents his journey from suicidal teenager to recovering adult. His writing is raw and honest, detailing the darkness he felt before his attempt, the long road through treatment, and the daily practices that keep him stable now. Within a year, the blog has over 200,000 subscribers. Mental health organizations invite him to speak at conferences. Schools ask him to address students about suicide prevention. The young man who once wanted to end his life is now dedicating his life to helping others want to keep living. Jennifer uses her marketing skills to amplify her brother's message. She creates a nonprofit called Family First Mental Health that connects families with resources for paying for treatment. She partners with insurance advocates to help families fight denied claims. She lobbies legislators for better mental health coverage. The guilt she felt about not knowing her brother's struggle transforms into fierce advocacy for families facing similar situations. William Carter stops working night shifts at the warehouse. His debts are paid. His family is reunited. His story has touched millions. But the most important change happens quietly, in the small moments that never make the news. He has Sunday dinners with both grandchildren now. He watches movies with Matthew on Friday nights. He takes Jennifer to the diner where he used to eat with her mother before Rachel died. He tells stories about Patricia, about the early days of his firefighting career, about the family history that his grandchildren never knew. One evening, about 8 months after the trial, William sits on his porch watching the sunset. Matthew comes out and sits beside him, a cup of tea in each hand. "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" William takes the offered tea and nods. Always. Matthew is quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "When you found me that day, when you saved my life, did you ever regret it? All the money you spent, all the debt you took on, all the secrets you had to keep. Did you ever wish you had just let me go?" William's response is immediate and absolute. "Not for 1 second. Not for one single second, but everything you lost. Your savings, your peace of mind, 3 years of Jenny being angry at you. Was it worth it?" William sets down his tea and looks at his grandson with eyes that hold 79 years of love and loss and hard-won wisdom. "Matthew, I have been in burning buildings where the floor was about to collapse and the ceiling was coming down around me. I have pulled people out of car wrecks when the gas tank was leaking and one spark would have killed us all. I have made split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death more times than I can count." He pauses, his voice growing thick with emotion, but the only decision that ever truly mattered was the one I made on that bathroom floor when I found you. I decided you were going to live. I decided I would pay any price, make any sacrifice, carry any burden to make that happen. And I would make that same decision every single day for the rest of my life without hesitation." Matthew's eyes fill with tears. "I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, son. More than you will ever know." They sit together as the sun sets, two men who have both survived the darkness and found their way back to the light. The money is gone, but it bought something far more valuable than financial security. It bought time. Time for Matthew to heal. Time for Jennifer to finish school and build a career. Time for this family to find their way back to each other. Judge Judy's words echo in William's memory. "Sometimes heroism happens in the quiet choices we make to sacrifice ourselves for the people we love." William Carter never thought of himself as a hero. He was just a man doing what needed to be done. A grandfather protecting his grandchildren. A firefighter who spent 42 years saving strangers and then spent his retirement saving the two people who mattered most. The case is closed. The debts are paid. The secrets are revealed. The family is healed. But the legacy continues in every message that arrives from families who found hope in William's sacrifice. In every young person who reaches out for help because Matthew showed them it was possible. In every advocate who fights for better mental health coverage because Jennifer channeled her guilt into action. William Carter's $15,000 did not just save Matthew's life. It started a movement. It opened a conversation. It showed the world what love really looks like when it has to make impossible choices, and that is worth more than any amount of money. That is worth everything.